There is a subtle, heavy sorrow that arrives without a single tear or sharp word. It enters our lives as quietly as the shifting of seasons, a slow and imperceptible cooling until we look up one day and realize the warmth has vanished from the air. Many of us have felt this silent winter in our own lives. Perhaps your child calls far less frequently than they once did, or when they do visit, the conversation feels hollow, floating safely on the surface of the weather, television shows, or polite updates about the grandchildren. They do everything required of them by duty and politeness, yet you can feel a profound emotional withdrawal, the easy warmth, the light-hearted comfort, and the genuine desire to be close to you have slowly dissolved. No one slammed a door and no cruel arguments were had, but a vast distance has quietly stretched between you, leaving you wondering how it ever came to be. If this heavy silence resonates with your life, please know that you are not walking this path alone, nor are you left without a way forward. Our purpose here is not to offer empty comfort, but to invite a deep, healing clarity. The Buddha never guided us to find peace by turning away from the painful realities of our lives. Instead, he showed us how to look directly at our truth with an unwavering heart, immense compassion, and absolute freedom from self-blame. Consider these words as a clear mirror rather than a harsh judgment. In the timeless wisdom of the Sigalovada Sutta, the Buddha explored the sacred relationship connecting parents and their children. While he spoke clearly about the respect children owe to those who raise them, he also spoke with absolute honesty about the profound responsibilities parents hold toward their children. He described the honorable behavior that naturally inspires devotion, as well as the subtle missteps that slowly erode it. By looking closely at 6 of these unintended behaviors, we can understand why our adult children might be pulling away, choosing a quiet distance not out of malice, but as a gentle form of self-preservation. This reflection is dedicated to every parent who loves their children deeply and wishes for that love to be truly felt. In the ancient Pali language of the Buddhist texts, the concept of deep respect and reverence is called garava. The teachings describe this reverence not as a demand to be enforced, but as a natural consequence that flows effortlessly, much like water traveling down a hill, whenever a person carries themselves with genuine integrity, kindness, and spiritual maturity. The Buddha did not instruct children to honor their parents solely because they were given the gift of human life. He offered a much more profound insight, suggesting that parents earn the deepest devotion by continually embodying worthiness through their actions, their gentle care, and the way they steady their guidance. This understanding brings immense liberation to our hearts, because it reminds us that regardless of how many years have slipped away or what heavy burdens have accumulated between ourselves and our children, the karma of our choices in this very moment shapes the path of tomorrow. We are never permanently trapped by the past, we are never too old, and it is never too late to begin anew. The first subtle habit is perhaps the most difficult to see within ourselves because it hides behind our deepest affection. Imagine a devoted mother who deeply loves her family. When her daughter and son-in-law come to visit for a holiday, she notices the grandchildren are eating far too many sweets, and she points it out, believing her tone is completely gentle. She notices small disorganizations around the house and offers her assistance to fix them, or she wonders aloud if her son-in-law might want to look into a few job opportunities she gathered for him. She even suggests a smarter driving route to help them bypass heavy traffic. Evaluated on their own, each of these observations seems entirely well-meaning and caring. Yet by the end of the weekend, her daughter has retreated into a heavy quietness. The usual weekday phone calls vanish, and by the next weekend, a polite excuse is made to cut the next family visit short. The mother is left completely heartbroken, insisting that she only desires the very best for them. She is entirely sincere, but the teachings reveal a mental state known as papanca, the restless, proliferating mind that cannot find peace in things as they are, but feels compelled to constantly improve, manage, and correct. This mindset looks at a beloved family member and sees a project to be fixed rather than a unique soul to be loved, and when our adult children feel like ongoing projects, they naturally create space. In his guidance on beautiful speech, the Buddha praised Peyavaja, using words that serve to bind hearts together rather than tear them down. These are words that silently convey a message of trust, acceptance, and validation. Before your next interaction with your child, pause in stillness and ask yourself if you are entering their space to offer pure connection or to implement a correction, as the truth of that answer changes everything. The second behavior relies on a heavy phrase that countless parents have either spoken or felt in moments of frustration. After everything I did for you. Though they are just a few simple words, they possess the tragic power to sever relationships more completely than the fiercest arguments. Consider a father who worked tirelessly for decades, trading away his own vacations, delaying his retirement, and sacrificing his own comforts to ensure his son could receive a fine education. Every sacrifice he made was entirely real and born of genuine love, but he keeps a silent emotional ledger in his heart. At every family gathering or moment of disagreement, whenever his son makes a life choice that he disapproves of, that ledger is subtly brought into the room. The son immediately senses the invisible weight of that debt, leaving him entirely exhausted after their visits rather than filled with gratitude, a pattern the father cannot comprehend. The Buddha taught beautifully about the true nature of generosity, known as dana. True giving requires an unconditional release, meaning the gift belongs entirely to the receiver the moment it leaves your hands. When we cling to our past sacrifices and use them as leverage to control present choices, we mistakenly transform a past act of love into a modern debt, and no human being truly enjoys spending time with their creditor. The Pali word upadana signifies this heavy grasping and attachment. While we easily recognize attachment to material wealth or status, we often fail to see how we cling to our own stories of sacrifice. This specific attachment creates immense suffering, preventing the people we love from ever feeling completely free in our presence. We must gently ask ourselves if our giving was a free offering of love, or if it was an unspoken investment to ensure we would be owed later, looking upon our answer with zero judgment and total clarity. The third dynamic arises from a place of profound tenderness, which makes it incredibly difficult to let go. Many of us simply forget to update the emotional photographs we hold of our children. Even when they are well into their middle ages, balancing substantial careers, navigating marriages, and raising their own families through decades of real-world experience, we still hold an image of them as vulnerable teenagers who desperately need our direction. Think of a mother whose daughter is an accomplished medical physician, a woman who has delivered hundreds of lives, endured the fires of medical residency, survived a difficult divorce, and built a deeply substantive life as a single parent. Yet, whenever they speak on the phone, the mother immediately opens with a worried tone, offering unprompted advice on nutrition, finances, and relationship boundaries, lessons her daughter mastered decades ago. The daughter no longer argues, she simply cuts the conversation short to protect her peace. In the ancient teachings, this is described as mikaditi, or a distorted view of reality, which occurs when we insist on seeing life through the lens of how things used to be rather than how they truly are right now. When we stubbornly hold on to the role of the all-knowing guide, past the point where wisdom demands our graceful step back, we are relating to a ghost of the past rather than the adult standing right in front of us. Our children have transformed, and so have we. The relationships that thrive are the ones that honor this current reality, looking upon the grown child with fresh, respectful eyes. The next time you speak, try asking a question about their life to which you truly do not know the answer, and simply listen to understand them better without any urge to offer advice. The fourth behavior is uniquely destructive because it masquerades as deep family intimacy. You might feel exceptionally close to one of your children, and so, out of concern for their siblings' marital or financial struggles, you share those private worries with them. You assure yourself that this is not gossip, but rather the natural communication of a loving parent discussing family matters with family. However, the unintended consequence is that your children quickly realize that nothing whispered to you is ever truly safe with you. Their private vulnerabilities, fears, and personal setbacks become a form of family currency, passed around and viewed through your lens of worry. Consequently, they stop sharing their hearts, their phone calls dwindle, and a cold silence grows without you understanding the cause. The Buddha identified pisuna vaka, or divisive speech, as a deeply unwholesome action. This includes any form of communication that carries personal information between people in a way that sows seeds of doubt, tension, or broken trust. When we carry the private lives of our children to one another, even with the absolute best of intentions, we stop being a safe harbor and instead become a source of exposure. People will naturally close their hearts to environments that feel unsafe. The remedy is straightforward but demands great discipline. Whatever is shared with you must live and die with you alone. This absolute confidentiality is the cornerstone of trust, and it is never too late to become a safe refuge for your children once more. The fifth behavior manifests in two distinct ways, both of which can quietly drain the vitality from those who care for us the most. The first version appears when a parent emotionally crumbles whenever their child exercises normal independence, responding to a cross-country career move, a holiday spent with in-laws, or a cancelled visit due to a sick grandchild with cold withdrawal or heavy guilt. While these reactions stem from a place of genuine loneliness and pain rather than conscious manipulation, the adult child experiences them as a heavy tax on their own happiness, learning that honesty is simply too expensive. They stop acting out of love and begin managing your emotional state instead. The second version occurs when a parent transforms their child into their primary source of emotional survival, treating them as a full-time counselor or their sole reason for waking up each morning, placing an unfair spiritual burden upon their shoulders. This is exactly where the Dharma presents its most radical and beautiful medicine through the practice of Upekkha, or equanimity. Equanimity is never a cold or indifferent detachment. Rather, it is the beautiful practice of anchoring our own internal peace, building a personal spiritual life so stable that we do not require the constant reassurance or presence of another to feel secure. By cultivating this inner steadiness, we grant our children the most magnificent gift a parent can bestow, the total freedom to live their own lives without the paralyzing weight of guilt, allowing them to visit us out of genuine longing rather than exhausting obligation. Our children were never meant to be our therapists or our emotional rescuers. They deserve the sacred space to simply be our children. The sixth behavior involves a profound practice that many of our generation were explicitly taught to avoid. For many, offering a sincere apology to a child feels like a complete surrender of authority, an admission of past ignorance, or a loss of parental dignity. Instead, we often retreat behind the defensive shield of stating we did the best we could. While that statement is almost always completely true, when it is used to shut down an uncomfortable conversation rather than open it, it becomes deeply isolating. What our adult children are carrying deep down is rarely burning rage or bitter resentment. It is usually just an old, quiet question echoing in the corners of their heart, wondering if we ever truly saw the impact of our past actions. The silence that meets that unspoken question over the decades becomes a lingering wound of its own. Imagine a grown woman in her 50s who carries a quiet, old childhood ache that she has simply learned to live around. Her elderly father calls her completely out of the blue one afternoon and says something she had never heard in her entire life, acknowledging a specific moment from her youth, admitting he was wrong, and offering a sincere apology for asking too much of her. She was moved to tears not by sadness, but by an overwhelming sense of emotional release, allowing a burden held for decades to finally rest. The Buddha deeply praised those who have the immense courage to recognize a past mistake, acknowledge it with total clarity, and resolve to walk a wiser path, viewing this vulnerability not as weakness, but as the very definition of wisdom. This is the essence of sammasankappa, or right intention, the bravery to look directly at the ripples of our actions and offer the validation our children may have spent a lifetime waiting to hear. It requires no dramatic confrontations or reopening of old wounds. It can be as simple as a quiet, sincere admission that you wish you had handled things differently, opening a door that has been locked for a lifetime. The path of the Dhamma is never a path of endless regret or suffocating guilt. The most beautiful and practical truth of this wisdom is that the present moment is always completely open for a fresh beginning. Whatever distance or misunderstandings have built up between you and your child, they are fundamentally impermanent. Karma is never an unchangeable fate. It is living action, and action can always be transformed. You can begin this very day with 3 gentle spiritual practices. First, commit to witnessing your internal state before you speak or make a phone call, pausing for a single mindful breath to ask whether you are entering the conversation to selflessly offer warmth and presence, or to extract reassurance or voice a complaint. You do not need to embody perfection. You merely need to be awake to the moment. Second, resolve to offer pure presence rather than a flawless performance. Your adult children do not require you to be perfectly wise, unyielding, or always right. What they deeply long for is simply for you to be truly there, completely unhurried, genuinely curious about their journey, and able to listen without shifting the spotlight back to yourself. Ask them real questions about what surprises them or what they love about their lives, and listen solely to know them. Third, embrace the power of the small repair. You never need a dramatic grand reckoning. You only need a single honest sentence offered in a gentle voice to apologize when a comment lands poorly. Sincerity carries a quiet majesty that can achieve in moments what years of strained effort could never accomplish. In the ancient traditions, the revered spiritual elders were known as the Theras and Theres, the beautifully ripened ones. They were not honored merely because they held the most dominant authority or endured the most hardship, but because they had become soft and spacious enough to truly receive others without any personal demands, remaining wide enough inside to hold the people they loved without ever squeezing them. This is the beautiful purpose of the autumn of our lives. It is not a time for mourning the parents we used to be or managing ancient grievances, but an opportunity to become a rare and beautiful sanctuary for those we love. When you cultivate this inner shift, your home becomes an emotional refuge where your children walk through the door and immediately feel their shoulders drop in relief. Your voice becomes a comfort they actively seek out, and their connection to you arises from pure, joyful longing rather than heavy duty. When your time on this earth eventually draws to its natural close, your children will remember you not with a complicated mix of relief and lingering guilt, but with the clean, deep sorrow of having lost a truly magnificent presence. They will know they were raised by someone who chose love over pride, vulnerability over performance, and true connection over position. This is the life the path invites us to walk, and this is the only legacy truly worth leaving behind. May you be completely well, may your families know profound peace, and may the beautiful merit of your practice ripple outward to bless your children, their children, and every life you touch. If these words brought clarity to your heart, sharing them with another parent can be a gentle reminder that it is never too late to heal a bond. If you have walked through the pain of distance and found a way back to connection, letting others know your story can give them the strength to take that first step toward repair.